I suggest that you didn't love them, correct or incorrect?
That's not true.
I suggest that you were angry that they took Simon's side in your argument with him in 2022 about the child allowance.
That's not true.
And that feeling towards them continued, correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
In fact, you had two faces, a public face of appearing to have a good relationship with Don and Gail, as shown to people like Simon, Anna, Tanya, Matt, Ruth Dubois, Professor Stewart and police in your record of interview. Agree or disagree?
Are you asking me to agree if I had two faces?
I'm asking you, do you agree that you had a public face of appearing to have a good relationship with Don and Gail?
I had a good relationship with Don and Gail.
I suggest that your private face was the one you showed in your Facebook Messenger use, correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
And how you truly felt about Don and Gail was as you expressed it in your Facebook messages?
No.
Correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
And that is how you really felt about Simon Patterson, as expressed to your Facebook friends, correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
Erin Patterson faced another grilling today by Nanette Rogers as the Crown prosecutor questioned the accused about her estranged husband, her in-laws, the only guests who survived the deadly lunch, and his late wife. It was a short session today, but it ended on a tense exchange. I'm Brooke Grebert-Craig, and this is The Mushroom Cook. I'm back with my colleague, court reporter Laura Placella. We just finished day 28 of Erin Patterson's murder trial, and I do have to apologise to our listeners. Yesterday, I said it was day 26 when it was actually day 27. I think all the days are merging into one.
And I didn't even realise when you said that. But on behalf of our listeners, we forgive you.
Thanks, Laura. As I said at the start of the episode, today's proceedings were really about Erin's relationships with her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, his parents, Don and Gail Patterson, and his aunt and uncle, Heather and Ian Wilkinson. Let's start with what Erin said about Simon.
Erin was brought back today to some evidence that we heard in the second week of the trial from her Facebook friends. Christine Hunt, one of these friends, told the court that Erin had painted Simon as coercive and was never happy with his commitment to things. But Erin told the court today that she did not remember telling either of those things to Miss Hunt. Dr. Rogers also brought Erin to some evidence from another one of these friends, Daniela Barkley, who said that Erin told her Simon wasn't a very nice person. But again, Erin told the court that she didn't remember telling Miss Barkley that. Dr. Rogers also asked Erin today about something else Miss Barkley said about Simon. These are their words, but not their voices.
Daniela Barkley also gave evidence that you weren't happy with his cleanliness.
That's true.
You heard her say that?
Yes.
And is that the truth, that you told her that, or that you posted that?
Yeah, it is true, because I had to spend 2 weeks cleaning his house at one point.
Dr. Rogers also asked Erin today about a conversation she had with Public Health Director Rhonda Stewart from Monash Health on July 31. Professor Stewart said Erin told her the lunch wasn't unusual because she had a good relationship with her in-laws and her ex-husband. Erin told the court today that she could not recall this conversation with Professor Stewart, but there was one thing she wanted to note.
Now, you've got no memory of having any conversation with Professor Stewart. Is that your evidence?
Yes.
So you're not able to comment on whether or not you said that, correct? Or anything like that?
Correct. Except I wouldn't have called Simon my ex-husband because he was not, and still is not.
At the beginning of his evidence in the first week of the trial, Simon was asked how he knew the accused. He replied, "I'm married to her." And he also confirmed to the court that they were still married.
Dr. Rogers took Erin to a text she sent Simon after he pulled out of the lunch on July 28. She said, "That's really disappointing. I've spent many hours this week preparing lunch for tomorrow, which has been exhausting in light of the issues I'm facing." She went on to say, "I may not be able to host a lunch like this again for some time." Dr. Rogers asked Erin today why she wanted him at the table.
I suggest that you wanted him to come to the lunch so that you could feed him part of the poisoned beef Wellington meal.
That's not true.
I suggest that you prepared a poisoned beef Wellington for him just in case he turned up at midday or shortly after midday on Saturday the 29th of July.
No, that's not true.
And when he didn't show up for lunch at some stage, you threw it in your rubbish bin.
I did put the pastry and mushrooms in the rubbish bin. Yes, I did.
After a series of rapid-fire questions from Dr. Rogers, Erin said she did tell Simon she wanted to discuss some medical stuff when she invited him to lunch, but she denied that she wanted advice and also denied that it was the purpose of the lunch. Earlier this week, Erin admitted she misled her guests when she told them she may need treatment for cancer. But she testified today that she was confronting medical issues since she was planning to have gastric bypass surgery.
Let's move on to the questions Dr. Rogers asked Erin about Don and Gail. At the top of the episode, our listeners would have heard Dr. Rogers suggesting to the mother of two that she had two faces, a public one and a private one.
Yes, Erin was asked this today, but she emphatically denied the accusation, saying that she loved and still loves Don and Gail. But Dr. Rogers disputed this, pointing her to several messages sent to her Facebook friends that our listeners have heard before. In these messages, Erin describes them as a lost cause, says they have no capacity for self-reflection at all, and declares, "This family, I swear to f***ing God," and "f*** them." Dr. Rogers suggested to Erin today that these were her true feelings about her in-laws, but Erin denied this and said she was simply venting to her friends.
So Erin has pleaded not guilty and has claimed she may have accidentally added foraged mushrooms into the beef Wellington dish along with dried mushrooms that she purchased from an Asian grocer. Today, Dr. Rogers suggested to Erin that if she did love Don and Gail, she would have notified medical authorities about the possibility that foraged mushrooms had gone into the meal. Here's the exchange that took place.
You've told this jury that it was sometime on 31st of August 2023 after this conversation when Simon had asked you about, did you use a dehydrator to poison my parents?
Yep.
That you first realised that the foraged mushrooms might have been in the Tupperware container and might have been used by you in the beef Wellington preparation, correct?
That it might have been a possibility. Yes, correct.
And you agreed that you told police in your record of interview that you loved Don and Gail, correct?
Correct.
Surely if you had loved them, then you would have immediately notified the medical authorities about there being a possibility that the foraged mushrooms had gone in the container with the Chinese mushrooms.
Well, I didn't.
No, you didn't, even though you had the realisation on 1st of August 2023?
That's correct. But I'd been told that people were getting treatment for possible death cap mushroom poisoning. So that was already happening.
But you didn't feel the need to tell any medical authorities about the possibility that the dried foraged mushrooms on your evidence that you had found had gone in the container with the Chinese mushrooms?
That's correct. I did not tell anybody.
On your evidence, you never once told a medical professional that foraged mushrooms were involved or might have been involved, correct?
That's correct.
And you never told anyone about that matter, for example, Sally Ann Atkinson, correct?
Correct.
So this day, this realisation on Tuesday the 1st, I suggest that this was days before anyone had died, correct?
It was.
Even after you were discharged from hospital on that day, you didn't tell a single person that these may have been foraged mushrooms used in the meal, correct?
Correct.
Erin was also asked about her relationship with Ian and Heather. I think our listeners should know that Ian was sitting in court today listening to all of the evidence, just as he has been doing throughout the whole trial. He sat in the back row, listening intently with his arms crossed, and at times he closed his eyes.
The jury has previously heard Ian describe his relationship with Erin as amicable, but he said they were more like acquaintances. Erin agreed today that she did not socialise much with Ian outside of church. She said she spoke more with Heather, but she also agreed they were not close. Here is more of her exchange with Dr. Rogers.
But I want to ask you this. Why is it that you invited Ian and Heather to the lunch on the 29th of July?
There were a few reasons. Well, Ian had been my pastor for years and years, and I would see and speak with Ian and Heather a lot after church, and I really liked them, and I wanted to have a stronger relationship with them. When I had invited Don and Gail for lunch in June, Gail had said that what I had done to the garden was really nice and Heather would love to see it. And I thought, oh, that's a great opportunity to invite Heather and Ian the next time I have Don and Gail for lunch. And I did that. I just wanted to say thank you to them for being good to me over the years. Heather helped me a lot when my daughter was little, and I started taking her to playgroup at Corumburra Baptist, and I was shy and didn't really know many people. And Heather would sit with me through those playgroup times and was really kind to me, and I wanted to say thank you to her.
Erin grabbed a tissue as Dr. Rogers continued.
Did you invite Ian and Heather to lunch to ensure that Don and Gail would also attend?
I didn't need to do anything. I just needed to invite Don and Gail and they'd come because they loved me.
Did you ask Ian and Heather in an attempt by you to get Simon to attend as well?
No.
As always on a Friday, court finished at 1 p.m. today. Before Justice Christopher Bill dismissed the jury for the day, Dr. Rogers suggested that Erin had accessed the citizen website iNaturalist.
She took Erin to the computer records that we've previously spoken about that shows that a computer in Erin's house accessed a map about death caps on May 28, 2022. Erin told the court today that she didn't have a specific memory of this day or that search, but said that it could have been possible that she did visit this website. She said at some point she remembers wanting to find out if death caps grew in South Gippsland and then subsequently finding out that they did not. Earlier this week, Erin told the court that when she found out mushrooms were growing on her property and that they were probably toxic to dogs, she went online to see if death caps grew in her area. In the final exchange of the day, Dr. Rogers asked Erin, "I suggest you had an interest in death cap mushrooms on May 28, 2022. Agree or disagree?" Erin replied to Dr. Rogers by saying, "It depends what you mean by an interest." Dr. Rogers replied, "Well, it's a very straightforward question, Miss Patterson." But it was at that point that Justice Beale interjected and said that's all the evidence the jury would hear today.
And Erin will return to the stand on Tuesday as Monday is a public holiday and the jury gets a day off.
I think all of us have been looking forward to this long weekend, and Justice Beale wished them a good break, but did remind them not to discuss the case with anyone in their lives.
And on that note, stay tuned for our subscriber-only episode with veteran crime reporter Anthony Dowsley that will be dropping on Sunday.